Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 511. I'm your host, Patrick. I'm flying solo this week. Had a pretty busy schedule this weekend, so I didn't really even know if I was going to make a show happen. But yay, I did. So that's fantastic. See, our screenshot this week, Shao guards the marketplace in the 358th screenshot of the week. Another lovely screenshot, like the ropes. If you're wondering where those are from, I believe that's one of the sets of armor from Ravenloft. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website, DDOCast.com. DDOCast is hosted by Cyberears, the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next weekend, although it's kind of still the same... similar thing for me next weekend to this weekend, but I should have more time, so it's more likely that I'll have guests in a time set beforehand. But you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOCast.com, with our calendar. We do have a Facebook page, but Twitter is the one that I kind of generally try to drive people towards. At DDOCast on Twitter is the best place to follow us. On the podcast this week, we've got some news pertaining to Lemania. We had Lemania on, was up this weekend, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We also have some more information because of Lemania about what's kind of coming with some of the changes that we've been talking about with Druid changes and Artificer stuff, and the balance changes. So we'll jump right into game news. And like I said, Lemania was up this week. With that, we had an update of Druids and where those changes are. The animal forms, so we already knew that they'll now use the stats of the player's main hand, weapon, and all that stuff. The primal avatar form and damage is currently not affected by those changes for this build. So that would be using your weapon for melee attack. So base damage, critical multiplier, all that stuff from your weapon is not fully implemented yet. At least not for the primal avatar. It should have been in there for the druid, the bears, and the wolf forms. The combat styles. So we know that no combat style specific bonuses will function while in animal forms aside from natural fighting. And any bonus native to the form. So there's no dual wielding, no shield bashes, no single weapon attack speed, all that kind of stuff. Using two-handed weapons will still grant the 1.5 damage from your modifying stat and power attack feat adjustments. Shields will still grant stat bonuses, including armor class, but no shield bashes. Activated attacks that require a specific weapon to be held in hand will still not work in animal form. Part of that has to do with animation requirements. However, things that modify your weapon base stats will still work normally, such as changing your primary damage stat. People are asking about that. We got an update about the wolf speed, the animations with that. So the base wolf form attack speed will be moved down to 15%. All of the wolf speed increases will now stack with haste and other effects that do modify your speed, your attack speed. Again, not the combat style ones, because those won't be compatible. The Winter Wolf speed will be increased to 10% plus 1% per Druid level, which will be maximum 30% at level 20 Druid. So that'll be a little bit... so it'll get almost up... I think the current speed is 30%. So once you get to level 20, it will be comparable to what you are on live. The reason why they're doing that is to encourage people to be more committed to taking more levels. Kind of reduce some of the power from multi-classing. They probably were trying to balance a little bit. The bearer attack animation chain will be improved as well, so that should result in an approximate 15% increase in attack speed. They will have glancing blows if they're using two-handed weapons. However, interestingly, glancing blows will be disabled when the fighting defensively feat is toggled on, which was kind of an interesting choice there. I'm not really sure why they did that, because everyone else can use glancing blows while fighting defensively is toggled on, so I'm not sure why bears get the short end of the stick on that. But there you go. Also, regarding pets, so they made a modification to how the pets work. You will no longer actually have a penalty to losing your pet. That's going away. We knew that. But they also came out and said this week that the update was that you're going to get 3 raises of your pet now. So that will be kind of nice. Be kind of nice to be able to, get a little bit more raising for the pets. And the reason they're doing that, they stated, was basically has to do with a recognition that the pet and hireling AI is not the best it could be. So, let's see. Other stuff from Lemania and the release notes. So also Artificer, which I didn't really see anything that majorly changed, but we'll link to the release notes as well, so you can kind of catch all of that stuff. There was an update regarding the feats for Druid, the natural weapon fighting feats. Excuse me. So that has been changed to give you different effects based on whether you're in wolf or bear form. So the wolf form will be 6% double strike per feat for a net total of 18%. The bear will be 3% double strike and triggering glancing blows and kind of increasing your glancing blows for that. So at the net total, you get 9% double strike and 45% glancing blow damage and 9% proc rate. So that's kind of where they're going with that. So that's a change. They had originally changed it to being a set of 4 feet lines, or 4 feats. Actually, I think it was 5. It was 3 feats for natural weapon fighting, and then 1 each for wolf and bear. So they listened to people's feedback about, hey, that's way too many feats. So that's a good news. Regarding the balance changes that are coming, these are the things that are mostly affecting monks and monk splashes. Steel Star wrote they are still moving forward with the plan changes to bring the overall DPS of the monk class closer to analogous builds in other classes. That does include Hench and Mystic. They've been looking at feedback posts in Lemania Play and build data, talking through people's points and various edge cases. They've also been playing through content on Lemania using specific builds and combinations that people have raised concerns about. So far, the adjustments appear to be working as expected in bringing melee monks in their various forms closer to similar builds in other classes. While it's still certainly possible to make an underperforming monk build, it was before these changes as well. Everything they've seen so far suggests that monk builds are presently useful, will continue to be so, which again does include Hench and Mystics. They will be keeping an eye on further feedback from the forums, and especially the remainder of the Update 38 Lemania previews. And as they've stated before, they intend to take a more focused feedback look at the two-handed fighting feat sometime after Update 38. They've discussed and will continue discussing various proposed alternatives, including making Hench and Mystics melee power staff only. At the moment, though, they believe that their proposed changes are effective at bringing them closer to their overall goal of a better balanced melee ecosystem, and are still planning on moving forward with them. If people are interested in providing further focused feedback, they'd be most interested in seeing feedback from Lemania Play now or in the second preview, which will be coming in a couple weeks, and in-depth comparisons of Hench and Mystic and Thief Acrobat, ideally Lemania Play feedback, comparing those two, which would be the most useful. Although they do recognize that will be a bit of a taller order in that regard. Let's see. Other stuff that's coming. So Reaper Memento abilities, this is from the rest of the Lemania release notes. Reaper Memento abilities are now less likely to go on cooldown without actually being activated when used. Let's see. There will be some Curative Admixture Cure Critical Wound scrolls, where you can get 5th level scrolls to drop in random loot. So that'll be fun. They did fix an issue where some sentient jewels now play personality-specific reactions when filigree and jewels are slotted or unslotted. Character hand color is now correct when equipping the Robe of Celebration. Kind of one of those fun notes as well. They are addressing the recalling from the Ravenloft landscape after using one of the tavern transport NPCs. Now correctly sends you back to the Ravenloft tavern you came from instead of House Tarasco. Thank you. The Blue Water Inn exit sign now has the same options as the Blood on the Vine and Van Richten's Tower do. They also fixed an issue with wrong ambient sounds. This is one that I'm a little concerned about. UI says the NPC dialog box is now appear to the upper right of the screen, so NPCs are not covered during interactions. I'm not sure that I'm a big fan of that, particularly since one of the major raids right now, the Curse of Strahd, requires you to click on a dialogue box. I kind of like it being in the middle of my screen personally. Hopefully maybe they'll kind of give you an option of where you want it to kind of pop up. See, they also fixed the launcher issue that corrects some DirectX installation problems on Windows 10. The DirectX install has been added to the Repair tab, which can be found by opening Options from the menu and then switching to the Repair tab. They also corrected an issue so the Acme SDK updates properly on a Mac installation. A link to the character transfer guide has been added to the transfer wizard in the launcher. Let's see, the DDO installation log path no longer includes a reference from Turbine, and the Explorer log folder menu option has been added to the game launcher that will open the folder where the launcher and game client logs are placed, if you need to find those. Some good updates there. So the update 38 preview on Lemani was from Tuesday to Thursday this week. They expect a second preview to be going live the week of the 27th through the 29th. But that could change based on schedule interruptions. Specifically, the storms. They've had a bunch of snowstorms there in that area. I think they had like 3 successive nor'easter storms bringing snow. So it was fun for them, I'm sure. They are working towards putting out some changes to Druid and Artificer based on the feedback, as well as the new adventure pack and named loot with that. Steelstar wrote about a augment destroyer. So people were suggesting, hey, we have this thing for sentient weapons that destroys sentient weapons. And that's awesome. We like that. Inconveniently, you can't put an item that has a slotted augment into to feed to a sentient weapon until you take the augment out. So what people, I think, were looking for is to have an augment destroyer, something that you can buy for platinum, much like you can a sentient weapon piece. Steelstar said that they agree that an augment destroyer would be a useful add. However, augments and filigrees are implemented in very different ways at the moment. While the filigree destroyer was not a complex kit, an analogous augment destroyer would be, and would need to be implemented in a way that is not especially feature-friendly or performance-friendly. It also takes a non-insignificant amount of time that would likely be better spent fixing the augment system itself. Can we fix that? I agree. That'd be real nice. They've mentioned it as some of their longer-term plans. So he says it's not in their short-term plans, but if they can make the changes we'd like to, an augment destroyer would be much more likely to happen. So hopefully they'll get to that soon, please. We'd like to see some more augments as well, so that'd be nice. Bonus days for the week. You get to, this is actually going through a little bit farther into the week, through Wednesday. The Mimic Festival is back, so have fun finding mimics in your chests, or chests that are mimics. A word of caution, it was pointed out that the guild airship chests can become mimics, which should be kind of awkward, I must say. So be on the lookout for that. If you don't want mimics, you can go to the Hall of Heroes, talk to the mimic trader, and he will spray you with mimic repellent, and you won't get any mimics. However, that only works for the chest that you open, not your party members. So just kind of be aware of that if you're looking to avoid that. Store news, the Vishjani Knife Fighter enhancement tree is now available in the DDO store. So if you want to get that for points, you can now do that. The store sale is Rise Again. You get 25% off of reincarnation items, healing items, spell point potions, quest XP elixirs through March 21st. The weekly coupon gets you free lasting supreme ability potions, 5 of them with the coupon code ability, also available through March 21st. All right, let's jump into community news. The 275th Chronicle came out. They released a new video about bringing Ravenloft from tabletop to the game. It was kind of a fun video, but there's nothing... It's really just actually images comparing what's from the paper version to what is actually in the game. So it's kind of a side-by-side. Well, not side-by-side. They'll show you what was written in the paper version, and then they show you what they did to make it look like that in the game. So it's kind of neat, but it's not like there's not any talking or special insight. It's just kind of showing the images. Strimtom was streaming a Reaper 2 completion of Legendary Shroud. Nicely done. Let's see, the guild for the week. House Darmont is a level 38 guild on Orion with their own Stormglory Typhoon airship and a guild leader who has been playing since 2007. The guild welcomes all and plays most often in the evenings Pacific time. You can find them in-game and contact Deus Darmont for more information. The comment from the week, what is Mimic bait made out of? I would assume it would probably be some combination of flesh, fleshy scent, and shiny stuff, much like you would catch a fish. It's got to be shiny because they want it to see it be shiny. They're trying to pretend to be treasure chest, right? So let's see, fan site news. We got a shout out for our endgame discussion. Then and now, part 1 was last week. We will continue that discussion after the news portion of the show on to part 2. DDO Players News wants a bacon golem. Interesting choice for a golem. City wrote about his favorite builds in DDO. A very bad guild found a bargain. Mickey wrote about her latest rating. Band VP finds spies in his house. Axel wants to know if it's important to keep up with the DDO meta in his new video. Tone Station has epic adventures every Wednesday on Galanda. DDO Wiki Talk delves into the wiki every Wednesday as well. DDO PL means John the Reaper. You can click for their show through the Chronicle. McVegan Pants gets into level 9 trouble. Doug Glendower says hello to Garrett for his latest Bard Life. Jasmine heads to House Kenneth. And Tony's Fishing, Gaming, and Guitars checks out DDO. That's an interesting combination. So lots of people streaming DDO. If you want to find them, go ahead and check out the Chronicle. You can kind of navigate through all those through the Chronicle. See, DDO.com is being updated, so you can, if you missed our information about that last week, you can check out the Chronicle, which has a link to there as well. And Cordovan looked at Update 38 on Libania and had some fun with people hanging out there on his weekly Wednesday lunchtime live stream. Other videos this week, Axel also had a video on the greatness of the Shroud. I talked about how awesome the Shroud is. It is a great raid. I'm less a fan of the Legendary 1 version myself, but that has more to do with I don't think things that hit insanely hard is actually more challenging. Voodoo also had a beginner's guide to sentient weapons. So if you're looking to get started in sentient weapons, or you have been and you have no idea what you're doing with them, I highly recommend that. And BioBreak, the blog from Sipster, he talked about running the Prisoner, Von 2, colloquially known as well in his blog post this week. Let's see, and that'll take us to Lightning Post. Speaking of interesting choices for golems, Nunya wrote in and said, in answer to the golem question, in his best DM voice, rising from the smoldering remains of the large communal bathhouse privy comes a creature made from the remnants of many bowls and sinks, mummy wrapped in various grades of wet toilet paper that has seemed to be oozing a vile substance that reeks of, well, we'll let your imagination run with that one. I present to you the monstrous porcelain golem. I would guess the smell alone would require a saving throw of some form, generally a fortitude save. That's kind of mean, I'm just going to say. It probably wouldn't damage the weapons, but I'm not sure many adventurers are going to want to stick their weapon in that. Let's see, Fuzzy Duck 81 wrote in, he says, I like the idea of having some more types of Reapers that are specialized towards countering certain roles, meaning you need to change up your tactics to deal with them. An anti-melee Reaper could have powerful guards, both damage and debilitating like the old green steel ones, as well as reducing melee attack speed and damage. An anti-ranged Reaper could have a higher degree of the new missile avoidance stat, potentially combining it with the older missile deflection, plus ability to teleport straight to a target and run the speed slowdown, making them more stand and fight than a run and kite. The anti-spellcast Reapers could have effects that give a spell failure chance plus the vicious strike, which gives you damage on spellcasting, and arcane encumbrance, a chance of being knocked down when you cast spells with them. Those are abilities from the Barbarian Occult Slayer, plus high Wisp level spell resistance. This then adjusts the Reaper spawn rates, making specialized Reapers more common and have a large vulnerabilities to the roles they're not specialized at countering, with current Reaper types changed to be less common and kept as more universal threats. I like the idea of making them more vulnerable to the other kinds of attacks I'm not sure how feasible it is with the physical stuff, but certainly the an anti-spellcaster one could take less damage from energy types and more damage from physical weapons. So that'll be it for the news portion this week. We'll be hopefully back next week to get news updates as well. Thanks for listening to the show. Thanks to all the folks who helped me put DDOCast together. Sorry we couldn't get anyone else on this week. Again, just my schedule is kind of prohibitive. Wasn't even sure when or if this was going to happen this week, but I'm happy that I got a chance to get it in. Also, thanks to Standing Stone Games and Wizards of the Coast and to Cyberbears for hosting the podcast. You can check us out on DDOCast.com, where we have show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff. If you would like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. If you'd like to be a part of the show, go ahead and comment anywhere that you can find this. Also, you can send us an email at DDOCast@gmail.com. If you have a comment, a question you'd like to hear us answer, maybe something you'd really like us to get into and get you more information about, let us know. You can also find us on social media for the latest cast updates. Again, at DDOCast on Twitter is by far the best. Our tip for the week comes from Dream on Galanda. He says, "Don't spike," is a good bit of advice. People tend not to like that. So stay tuned. We're going to do part 2 of our discussion on Endgame, Then and Now. Part 2 of 4. But before we do that, we do have a word from our sponsors this week.
This is Billweather Bill with Stormreach Tours, the premier touring company of Zendrick, the same company that explored the troll-infested Sourdusk Isle, home of the Cult of Six. Are you looking for adventure in new and exciting places? We offer a full slate of travel options for adventurers of all levels in and around the continent of Zendrick, with something for every adventurer to enjoy. We are now offering new and exciting adventures to the land of Barovia through our newly opened Barovian travel office. Travel through the mists to the foreign land of Barovia, a mysterious realm surrounded by a lovely fog and ruled by Count Strahd von Zarovich. Stay in the charming village of Barovia, located in the shadow of Castle Ravenloft, or one of the other local villages. Explore all that Barovia has to offer with our native Vistani travel guides. This is a land of many surprises and wonders, a land of fantastic history and lore, a land of rustic and authentic architecture. Book your adventures today. It is such a unique place to visit, we doubt you'll ever leave. We have with us today Yevgeny Krushkin, one of our Vistani guides, on location in Barovia.
Hello, travelers and adventurers, and welcome to Barovia, land under the oppression of Count Strahd von Zarovich, our generous host for this week's feature tour. Join us for exclusive Stormreach tours in Barovia, tour of Castle Ravenloft, home to Count Strahd himself. Through our exclusive relationship, the Count has graciously opened his expansive home to have ye for dinner. Explore Barovia's premier escape room as ye look for way out of impossibly large castle that overlook the village of Barovia. As dominant feature of the land and the reclusive nature of Strahd, this is once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see inside Castle Ravenloft. Opportunity most people of Barovia only dream about in their nightmares. Spend hours exploring different rooms of Castle Ravenloft. Visit dungeons and torture chamber where Strahd has held and tortured his unfortunate prior guests, prisoners. Eat in not one, but 2 dining halls, and have drink in Castle's well-stocked wine cellar. See chapel where Count Strahd himself worships. Explore 2 castle spires. See wonders of architecture of castle unlike any other. Read from Strahd's collection in his study. And witness magical animated painting of Strahd. Can ye be the one to find Strahd's rumored treasure vault? Our tour groups have said they spend hours getting lost in overwhelming size of Castle Ravenloft. It's just that amazing of place. Wait, here comes one now. Excuse me, miss. Can ye tell us about thy experience in Castle Ravenloft?
Oh, hi! I'm like totally searching for Jeets. Have you seen him? He's like this super adorable halfling. He came in here with me, and we went on the tour, and it was really fun. And he said something about going to look for treasure, and then he ran off without me. So, like, have you seen him?
Oh, well, have you asked Madam Ava to read thy fortune? Maybe she can help. It's included in price of admission for tour.
Excuse me, I do not need my fortune read. I need to find Jeets. Maybe I should go and ask that nice Strahd fellow. He's like tall and handsome and also tall. You're like super unhelpful. Bye-bye.
Right. Well, as I was saying, as special treat, we include in our tour a reading by famed fortune teller Madam Ava herself. Her Toroka deck is famed throughout all of Barovia, and her fortunes are infamously cryptic.
Thanks, Evgeny. I wonder what my fortune would tell. Be sure to book this tour today to ensure priority access, and don't forget about our many other tour options. Take a relaxing cruise to the Isle of Forgotten Dreams, or explore the vast ancient catacombs in the Stormreach market. And if you like castles, look no further than our visit to Theobald's Tower. Explore all 10 levels of the infamous tower, experience the wild experiments of a crazy wizard, enjoy an illusionary story time, and meet the wizard servants as you journey up to meet the famous wizard himself. Remember to dress in layers, you never know what a wizard is up to. This is Billweather Bill with Stormreach Tours, where we put the adventure back in your questing. Don't delay, join us for your next questing experience today.
Stormreach Tours is an equal opportunity employer and travel service, open to all races and genders. All adventures are non-refundable after purchase. Stormreach Tours not responsible for pug quality, loot rolls, damage or loss of personal items or platinum, lag, and connection issues, or afflicting conditions such as, but not limited to, injury, mind control, rage quits, disease, curses, amputations, death, or undeath. Hello, we are talking today, continuing our discussion on Endgame, then and now. So, I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have Asheras. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me again. I'm looking forward to continuing the discussion. The first part was great.
We also have Warcane, one of our new guests for us. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So last time we were talking about Endgame. Then we kind of took a journey from level 10 all the way up until essentially kind of level 28. What the Endgame looked like as we kind of progressed to there. Today we're going to be talking primarily about what does Endgame look like now. What are the things that we're doing it Endgame now? And just as a quick refresher before we kind of jump in, for our purposes for this discussion, Endgame is what we're really talking about is what do you do when you get to level cap? Now that includes reincarnation, which we'll obviously be talking about a lot today, and as we continue this discussion. But when you get to level 30, what do you do next, right? Like that's kind of what we're talking about in terms of what does Endgame look like now? Do you roll another character? Do you reincarnate? Do you run loot farms or raids? Or what are you doing at this kind of juncture, as it were? And Asheras is moderating today, so take it away.
All right. Well, to continue our discussion from part one, where we talked about the progression of raiding from or endgame from level 10 all the way up to level 28. Now we're going to talk about what it looks like today. So I guess let's just start with getting some input from you guys. Warcane, what are you doing right now with a character that's at cap?
I usually run a few quests, try to get some of the items that I'm looking for. Upon achieving that, then I usually just TR, go back and get a life that I need, or get an iconic life I need, or something along those lines, just boost the character.
How much planning do you do on the reincarnation? Is it something where you kind of got it laid out where I want X number of heroic lives, X number of racial lives, X number of epic lives? You know, what are your, or is it just something where you kind of feel like, hey, you know, I've done this enough, I want to change a pace, I'm gonna do this now?
I try to get all of them. At least that's my goal, is to get every past life there is. At that point, I probably will start a second character, and do the same thing. You know, I've gone through all the heroics, I've done racial completionists. Right now I'm working on getting my iconics and epics done. Want to get the epics so you can get the extra fate points, get my fate point pool up higher.
Okay, so you're only running one character right now, primarily. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Patrick, what about you? What does Endgame look like for you right now?
Well, right now it's kind of a balance between my current reincarnation project and getting the new loot and running raids. Part of what drives the raids though is kind of it's a guild thing, right? Like it's not that I'm not looking for stuff out of the new raids still, but a major driver in running the raids constantly is also running with my guild and doing it as a guild activity. It's not just about getting the loot. I would say I'm not really doing a lot of loot runs other than raiding. It's, I get some, part of that I think it comes from named loot drops these days, and some of the newer content are generally pretty favorable. Not to say that I haven't had to run a couple quests a lot, but it hasn't been difficult to get that loot that I'm looking for. And probably if you go back far enough, we were talking about, back in the day at level 10, we were kind of running things so like you'd go run stuff because you knew you could get a tome out of this. I don't really look for tomes anymore, either because I bought a Supreme tome when it was on sale, or because now in the grand scheme of things, a +1 to a single stat isn't really going to functionally change my character very much anymore. If it's a tome that I really needed to functionally character, I made sure I got it at some point. And we talked about last time where reincarnation would wipe your tomes out. You don't have to worry about that anymore. So looking for like an intangible loot isn't really a thing anymore. This is the new loot. Okay, I want these several items when I go out and get them. And even with Ravenloft, it's kind of been even a little bit more passive. Like, well, I know I'm going to run this with at least flag all of my characters, even though I've kind of gotten to the point where now I'm really only focusing on 5 characters. That's kind of like my focus limit now, as opposed to 14 or whatever it is. But I still ran all my characters through Ravenloft to get them flagged so that I can run the raid with and have a large stable of characters run the raid without having to use a raid timer and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I am. I don't really concern myself too much with Reaper XP. I don't really concern myself too much with Sentient Weapon XP. It's not to say that I'm not driving those with my characters, but it's not. I try to avoid the decision of, well, I'm not going to run this because I can't run on Reaper 3 to maximize my Reaper XP. I kind of figured a lot of that stuff's going to come along, and again, how much of that is really going to functionally change my character's builds, which I think really comes back to my focus. We kind of alluded to this last time when we were talking about how when Menace to the Underdark came out, like a bunch of loot got invalidated. And I think you were right, Asheras. So that was kind of like the first time where, wow, this loot really got invalidated. That's going to keep happening because obviously we're going to keep getting more loot, and some of that's going to have to be a vertical progression to keep people interested. So it really comes back to building your character is going to be more lasting than going and finding loot to the most extent. So
okay, so let's talk about some of the aspects of the things you guys have talked about. Let's start with loot progression, because when we're looking at Endgame, acquiring loot is one of the ways you can make your character better. So, and from what I'm understanding, from what you said, Ravenloft had great loot, but the drop rates were relatively high, and you invested a fair amount of time in it. So that's not necessarily something that, besides running with your guild, it's really compelling for you right now. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it's also fair to say it's not like it's become it was ever necessarily really hard to get named loot that wasn't in a raid. I mean, it could be, you'd have to run some stuff, and you're still relying on the random number generator, but I don't think it's been difficult to find those named items for a while. It's...
Go ahead, Warcane.
I was going to say Gibbers. I still have guildies that are looking for it. When I'm 30, I'll help them run through two-toed, to see if they can, if I pull one, I can pass it to them. That's about the only thing I can think of that's somewhat difficult.
Yeah, and obviously that should be a rarer item. Although I think I again have I think I mentioned on the show, I have a little bit of a unique perspective of that, just because I think I got like 7 or 8 in like 14 runs or something silly like that over a period of time. So, but I think that we haven't really gotten into it yet, and we've alluded to it, and it'll be kind of a major part of what we talk about after we talk about what Endgame looks like now. Is you think about how Endgame has progressed, and it's been kind of driving and encouraging people to kind of consolidate how many characters they're running. So if you have 20 alts and you get a new content pack and there's all this new loot, it's going to take you longer to get all the loot you want than if you're only running 6 or 7 characters or 3 characters or 1 character, right? So, I mean, I think that definitely impacts a lot when we talk about content and how much content is there and how much new loot is there and stuff like that. So I think that does also play a factor when you're talking about your loot runs and raiding.
Sure it does.
When I look at loot runs for that too, I was slave lords getting the mats out of there to make your slaver's gear. That's another thing that people like to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I still need some slaver's gear. I mean, I think that slaver's gear has moved from being best in slot, the target for your character's progression, to being either a middle step, the gear you want to have when you're running Ravenloft, or it's a great filler as well. It fits a role very similar to the newer Kenneth crafting system, in its ability to, kind of be like a Swiss Army knife, that you can make it mix and match to fit. Because Ravenloft, by and large, has more static named items. There's the sentient weapon system, which has some flexibility to it, but by and large, most of the weapons in there have static stats on them. So it's back to a system where you're building a gear set around your best items and then having to fill those gaps in. And you might be doing that with Slaver's gear, you might be doing that with Legendary Shroud crafted items, you might be doing that with Kenneth crafted items, or you might be doing that with the sentient weapon filigrees.
The thing with Slave Lords and also Thunderhome for me was it was a real sync in terms of what you were going for, and because of things that we've talked about, of loot is going to progress, and eventually this loot is no longer going to be what's on my characters. It had less appeal for me too, like things that are really grindy. Even Legendary Shroud to a certain extent has similar things, but Shroud is, I think, maybe a little bit more enjoyable, and because it's a raid, you have more people, and it's more of an event still, as raids tend to be, particularly if you're doing them in a guild and stuff like that. But Slave Lords and Thunderhome, like I figured out really quick in terms of Thunderhome, I wasn't like, because we were doing that, like, I did focus on like, okay, this character I'm going to try and get a tier 3 Thunderhome, but I knew right away that I wasn't going to get tier 3 items for Thunderhome on all of my characters. It wasn't going to happen, and I didn't care. It was too much of a grind and a sink for me. Slave Lords had a similar reaction, right? Like, okay, let's look at the Slave Lords stuff, and the caster stuff is still really, really good. But other than that, like, I don't feel obligated or wanting to go into that much of a time sink to get that stuff. Temple of Elemental Evil was the same thing. Some of those crafting stuff for a time were very, very grindy, and I wasn't interested in that. Again, because what Endgame is now for me is, loot is going to be continually changing. Sure, every pack there's a couple of things that, like, oh, I need to get that for this build. That is a really major upgrade. But the smaller incremental upgrades, I don't worry about too much. I'll make a list and say, oh, I would like to get this item, but it's not something I'm going to go out and loot farm for, because I know it's not a huge step for that character.
Warcane, what was your perception of the Slave Lord stuff, and given that you're running a single character versus someone who's running multiple characters, or Thunderhome for that matter? Did you get much into that?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I do the Temple of Elemental Evil and Slave Lords. The temples I do mostly just for food for my gem. There's a lot of stuff you can feed to your gem that drops in there. And then it's kind of the mid ground when you're going TRN and you're coming back from 20 to 30. I mean, end loot's good when you're like, level 29, you get to put it on. You get to 30. How long are you at 30? I usually stay there a couple weeks and then I TR again, if that. I mean, sometimes I'm only a couple days. I'll play all day and I'm going to go TR. So, I mean, am I using that end loot that long? So for me, Slave Lords is kind of the mid-ground filler to get some of the stuff in there. And like he said, it's a good fill-in, like you Swift Army Knife, like he just said. I totally agree with that, that if you can't find something, you can always get it from there.
So, Patrick, how do you feel about sentient weapons and the leveling of the sentient weapon and the getting of the filigrees in comparison with how you felt about Slave Lords and some of the other more recent crafting systems that they've had at Endgame?
I like it a lot better. The filigrees drop so much that you have so many options that it's not hard to find a filigree to put in your sentient weapon. So that's not a grind. The other thing about sentient weapon XP is, so you compare that, since we're comparing that to Slave Lords. Slave Lords, you have to run Slave to advance it. Sentient weapon XP, you can run anything you want. All you need to do is find a named item and you can put it in, and you're advancing it. So it's not as restrictive, right? Same with Reaper XP, right? Like I can do both of those things while I'm doing whatever else I'm doing. It doesn't matter really what I'm doing. Okay, I'm not running a lot of raids on Reaper or anything like that, but you get what I'm saying. Like if I'm leveling a character, I can be advancing Reaper XP, so I don't have to focus on them. So while they might seem on paper to be kind of grindy, because they're not a major focus, it doesn't feel that way. It's just something that I'm getting done as I'm progressing in other ways.
So what you're saying is you're okay with grinds as long as the grinds don't really limit what you have to do in game. If you got to run the same quest over and over again, or the same raid over and over again, that feels more constrictive than if the grind is just kind of in the background.
Well, it's what do I enjoy, right? Like I'm playing a game, so it needs to be fun. If I'm not having fun, then I go do something else. That's just kind of how it works, right?
Sure.
And for me, raiding is the reason why raiding is fun is because, again, it's an event. It's something I'm doing with a lot of people. I really like the strategy and tactics that get involved in raids that you don't generally have in most quests. So that's why I really like raiding, even if I don't necessarily need something from that. Jack Roma in the chat was talking about RSO. Like, well, I never really. There was nothing in that loot list that I was like, wow, this is a major upgrade into my characters. I mean, there were a couple things like, oh, that'd be kind of nice to get, but I was running it because I liked the event. I liked running the raids and having the tactics. And, if I'm perfectly honest, bossing people around as the raid leader, that's kind of fun. But it's...
You do a good job of that.
Thank you. But, like, that's why that's fun. Running Slave Lords ad nauseum, 10 times to make one item fully fleshed out isn't that interesting to me. I can run it, I can do one run. Doing a second run almost feels a little bit more short. It stops being fun at a certain point, right? I was never the person that could run the same thing over and over and over and over and over again really fast.
Gotcha. Warcane, how do you feel about sentient weapons from a grind standpoint? From a how compelling are they as something for your character to do?
I'm pretty much with Patrick on it. This is something I kind of do on the side. I get named items I can't use. I'm like, oh, cool. Something I can feed to my weapon, I don't necessarily go out of my way trying to farm named items to feed it. It just let it progress.
Are you guys? What are your goals right now with sentient weapons, guys? Are you guys looking to have one weapon that has a optimized set of filigrees in it, or are you looking to maybe even develop up secondary weapons that can be situational, maybe with a defensive set of filigrees or something like that, and actually have multiple weapons on one character?
Definitely not doing multiple weapons on one character, but I'm also doing like 6 characters at the same time. So,
sure.
Well, sort of, right? Like if I'm on that, So I've got the group of characters that I'm playing, which is really just a set of 5, one of whom got, like, I switched kind of like my 5th and 6th characters in terms of the depth chart. So those, and even one of those doesn't really have one started yet. So with those guys, like if I'm running them and I get something on them, I'll chunk it into theirs. And then I have my DDOCast Splat character, who I also I put a sentient weapon on him more from the standpoint that I reincarnated. This is my monk. I reincarnated him, and that was a way to get rid of a few things in the TR cache so I could actually reincarnate. But also as he's running, I just throw some stuff in there as I get it that I don't want, right? So it's almost like a trash can for me in some ways. It feels kind of sad to say, right? But I'm definitely going with the like I'm optimizing one weapon on characters. I'm not going to worry about. I doubt I'll have a second one on many characters, if any. Because once those kind of top ones get it, there's a couple that would like to get. Like there's one that helps with your summons and your pets and stuff. Like I'd like to at least get that on my druid because there's kind of a theme there. So there's some long-term goals. It's just not something I'm really focusing on, I guess, if that makes sense.
Warcane, what about you?
I'm pretty much just got one gem, trying to level it up and get as many spots as possible. You can always take the filigrees out and put different ones in, switch it to different weapons. So my focus is just spend one gem and then put all the filigrees in my shared bank, which is getting really full at the moment. But you never know when you might need that one.
Put them in the crafting storage.
Yeah, that's where I've been putting them, yeah.
I actually just bought, when it was on sale, I bought another 250 slots.
Yeah, I had to too. The filigrees, because they don't stack, take up a lot of space in there. So I had to do that too.
There may be an augment bag in my future.
Yeah, those are nice.
Chapter.
I actually have 2 of those on one on one of my casters and one on one of my melees, and I've decided that one is responsible for holding all of the physical damage melee focused filigrees, and the other one's responsible for holding all of the sets that are more caster oriented. Yeah. Just so I kind of keep them in one place. I can find what I have rares of and what I don't. All right, let's talk Reaper for a second, because this is another system that exists in today's Endgame. How do you guys feel about Reaper? Is it a focus for you in terms of getting the Reaper XP? Do you find this system to be something that is an enjoyable part of Endgame that you want to do at cap? Is it something you're doing as you're leveling your reincarnations? Where does it fit in your game?
I think oddly, it definitely fits in this discussion, but I have a hard time wrapping my head like Sentient Weapon and Reaper XP as being quote Endgame. Because they're things I tend to do as I just kind of keep going. So I tend to run Reaper, at least R1, because you get more experience anyways. I do kind of have this rough plan that before I send my next character into the reincarnation grinder, there's a couple of quests at cap that I could probably run, R1 to 3 really fast. If they're because they're level 30 or higher quests, you get double the experience, Reaper experience. For those quests, but it's not a focus for me. Especially since if you kind of, when I take a step back and say, okay, what do I really enjoy doing at Endgame? Raiding. Okay, I'm not really raiding a ton at Reaper difficulties, if at all. So the Reaper XP doesn't really benefit me a whole lot in that sense. But it's also balancing time versus rewards, right? Like, yes, running a high skull Reaper, it can be fun occasionally, but it's a cost to do that. A lot of those quests, like, oh, let's go do this on R7. Well, if it's a quest that's kind of longer, it's going to be a longer grind. You're going to triple the time it's going to take to do the quests. I've got all these other things that I really want to do, and I think, quote, endgame for me personally would be, I have this punch list. If I finish this punch list, I've reached the end of the game. And how many things can I get off of that list before new stuff gets onto the list, right? If anyone's wondering, I'm completely losing that battle and have been for years. But, so for me, it becomes a time thing. I like getting Reaper XP. I like the added challenge of Reaper and having Reapers in there. There's a few things I'd like to see changed, but I enjoy it. I do it, but I don't. It's not really a heavy focus for me.
What about you, Warcane? Where are you at on Reaper XP and grinding Reaper XP, either at cap or as you're leveling?
At cap, I don't seem like I do a whole lot of Reaper. I mean, I will if the group wants to do it, but it's not my primary focus. Reaper's more of a heroic, because heroics, when you TR, are just too easy. You can just fly through stuff on elite, and doing it on Reaper 4 or 5 puts it up to the level where it's more comfortable for me, I guess. So I tend to do most of my Reapering through level 1 through 20. Some legendary epic Reaper, but not so much. I mean, like Patrick was saying, it's there. It's nice to do. You get the XP bonus, but it's not as necessary for me as in the heroics.
So it sounds to me like you're doing Reaper more for the challenge of it and just the enjoyment of running the content on that harder difficulty versus really focusing on acquiring Reaper points or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, when you have 70-some pass lights and you go down in heroics, it's kind of boring. You run stuff on elite, and it's just, you go up, I don't know, it's just no fun. So putting it up Reaper a few notches, what you feel your group can handle, you can put more of a challenge into those lower level quests to make them viable to play again and make some more fun.
Okay. All right. Well, let's transition over to reincarnation. I think given how we defined Endgame as being things you do at cap, is reincarnation Endgame or is it competitive with Endgame?
Both?
Both? A little of both?
I mean, I think it has to be part of the conversation, because when you get to level 30, what do? Well, the answer for a lot of people is you reincarnate. Or you get to level 20 and you reincarnate, right? And it's a way of advancing your character. So I think it has to be in this discussion. It like we kind of alluded to last time, it really does get confusing, though.
Yeah, because I think a lot of folks would say that reincarnation and replaying, especially 1 through 20, with the racials and the heroics, isn't endgame. That's re-leveling again, and endgame is kind of defined as what you do when you're done leveling. So
it blurs the line, but I think because it's directly competitive with loot runs and raiding at the endgame levels, right? At level 30. You have to consider it as part of that discussion of what do people do when they get to level 30. Well, they either park at level 30 and maybe run some raids or work on another character, or they reincarnate. Like, those are kind of the primary things that are happening.
Well, and I think you need to split reincarnation into 2 groups. You've got the racial and the heroic ones, which are the 1 through 20s, and then you've got the iconic and the epic, which are 15 to 30 or 20 to 30 respectively, because it's a lot easier in today's game to run iconic or epic lives and still participate with your friends who are at cap.
Sure.
I mean, in our guild, we have players who are joining our raid nights as early as level 23 or 24.
Not really, but occasionally.
They do.
Maybe
they
one
do
or
it.
two, maybe one a run, but
yeah, I mean, but certainly once you're past, like, say 26 or 27, the gaps become smaller, and you're capable of participating to some degree. Sure. And if you're doing some of the other activities like slave lords or gibbers runs, I mean, a lot of that stuff can easily be incorporated into those. But racial and heroic are completely different in that regard. They don't really afford that ability.
I think I've never really gotten into reincarnation for a primary reason. Like, I've talked about why I like running raids, right? Like, it's a group activity, it's an event. Reincarnation, for me, it's hard. Like, I can't, because of my schedule and how it fluctuates from week to week, and work is just kind of weird sometimes for me. It's really hard for me to be. I can't be part of a static group that's more than like once a week. It's just, and even then, there's days that like, even our raid nights, like, I miss our raid nights fairly consistently these days just because of other things I have going on. Life is busy. It only gets busier. So the problem I have with reincarnation is I'm pretty much always doing it by myself. I mean, I group up with other people, but I'm essentially driving it up for myself. It's not a group activity with my guild and stuff like that, because I just can't sustain a long time. We were talking about a mutual acquaintance of ours before the show, who like they've got a group that they're on every night and they're running through, and it's great. And if I had that, I would probably do a lot more past lives, but I that's not something that I can fit into my schedule and have that kind of a static groupness. So reincarnation for me ends up being a slow kind of drag. I don't level fast. That's kind of the problem.
Warcane, how do you feel about reincarnation? Is it something you do to get the past life bonuses, but you're not necessarily enjoying the process, or is it something you do because you really enjoy running that 1 through 20 content, or a little of both? Where are you at on this?
Well, every 3 epic past lives, you get a fate point, I believe.
Sure.
So if you do an epic and then do an iconic, everything restarts. All your first time quest XP, all your slayers, you can go and do all the slayers. If you do them all in your first life, and then epic TR and epic TR and epic TR, it just gets harder and harder to go from 1 to 30. So to throw an iconic in there and reset those is basically what I've been doing, just to make it easier to go back to 1 to 30 again. It doesn't feel like a grind. Play different characters, do different things. But that's my outlook, I guess, somewhat on it. Is, I mean, I tried doing epic, and you can't go out to the orchard and get a 500,000 XP in 20 minutes now, because you already did it.
Sure. Hey, quick question. When you run racial lives, do you run the same build every time, or do you customize the build based on the racial life you're doing?
I did a lot of Warlock with the double finger of deaths and the suggestion, because I was doing a lot of Reaper. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to suggest those Reapers, and the finger of death instant kill is awesome in Reaper. So yeah, I did a lot of Warlock. But I'd get burned out after you do 2-3 Warlock lights. You get sick of it. And I did throw in Sorcerer here, Barbarian there, Paladin here, just to kind of mix it up. I even put a couple monks in there, just to do something different. But yeah, racials is a long grind. That's a long one there. Yeah.
Yeah, I struggle with that, because on one hand, something like the Warlock, or the, Artificer Expo build or something like that is very fast for the life, but and you can make almost any race work with it. So, and then you can get your gear set, so you're using the same gear every life. You don't have to worry about finding stuff. But
absolutely.
But that also has a boredom factor, like you said. Patrick, what do you do there?
Oh, it's a mix of things. I think, one, I try to optimize for myself. Like there's, I've tried doing the Warlock thing. I'm not great at casters. It's probably the weakest part of my building. In heroics, I can kind of get away with it. But I'm not great at casters, especially when you start getting into epics, and gear becomes more of a necessity for a lot of that stuff. I tend to try to do things, if I'm bored, I'll try to do a different kind of class. Obviously, if there's I'm winning a class life, then that's going to be a major impact in it. But I generally kind of go with what's kind of already helped being optimized, and kind of what I would like to do. And Artificers is a pretty convenient one for me. I tend to play them pretty well. I've been doing my current project. I just finished doing 3 ASMR lives. The ASMR Scourge Iconic lives. And just because you also get a class, I went with Paladin to make sure that I got, that was a really beneficial class to get as well. So I kind of ended up with this weird Ranger Paladin hybrid that I think sort of worked and sort of didn't. But it's just kind of how can I optimize what I'm looking to get, and for speed and fun, or at least less pain.
Gotcha. Okay. So, do you feel like there are too many reincarnation options, too
No.
few, or just right?
I'm kind of indifferent.
Different?
I mean, I'm not. There's people are running them, so I wouldn't say that there's too many, right? Like it's a goal that people have. It's not a goal that I have. I think options are better. You're gonna have a hard time convincing me that there's too many options in a MMO. Like,
Okay.
It doesn't really matter what we're talking about. Like it's, I might get marginally annoyed by, oh, this new enhancement tree is awesome, and I would love to get some of that stuff, but that means I have to give up some of this other stuff from what my character is. Look, that's a good problem to have for an MMO, I think, because choices are life, really. So I don't think there's too many.
I personally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they should have actually more. I think the favor system should be updated because some of the favor that you run and get is just not on par with today.
Well, yeah, that's another problem, though.
Yeah, you're speaking my language now. We could have a whole show about favor and how to improve that. I think that's a vastly missed opportunity these days. No doubt about it. Okay. Let's see. So
I think we should let's wrap this part up, and we'll end the discussion for today, and then kind of jump into our next phase for next time.
Okay.
Anything else you guys want to say about reincarnation or where just generally Endgame is right now? All right.
I'm good.
So thanks for listening. Join us next time. We're going to continue our discussion. We're going to be talking about what has really changed specifically, and whether we think that's good, bad, and what kind of the effects are with that. I want to thank my guests today, Asheras and Warcane. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. You can also find show notes, past shows, and other fun stuff on our website, DDOCast.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates. I'm at DDOCast on Twitter. If you'd like to join the discussion, you can leave a comment or you can email us, DDOCast@gmail.com. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your tests level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.